Okay, welcome ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. I'm Skaggy Bones. I'm your host. And today I want to talk about the Crank Brothers Mallet E pedals. So there's a couple of things that you want to be able to adjust with these. As you can see, like all Crank Brothers, you have the 4-point spring ability to clip in on the spring here. Of course, the nice thing about all your Mallet E's is even the least expensive brand, the least expensive pair, which are these, at $160, you're getting stainless steel everything. So you got stainless steel and aluminum, stainless steel springs, aluminum bodies here, and then your stainless steel shaft, and then your serial cartridge bearings. Everything else is aluminum, and then you have some polycarbonate here for the inside. Okay, so one thing I do want to go over with you guys is a couple of adjustments that you do have on the Mallet E's that you also kind of do have with the Mallet downhills, but you're going to get a couple extra things that you don't get with your Mallet downhills. So one of the first things we're going to need to do, you don't necessarily need a full Allen set, but you are going to need a couple of different Allen keys. And we're going to start off, I believe we need it's a 2mm. Yep. Hold on, let me pull out the 2mm. So you're going to pull out your 2mm, and these here are your grub screws. Okay, so all these screws you can tell the front of the pedal because you're going to have 4 grub screws in the some people call them grip screws, but they're also grub screws. The reason they're grub screws, they're actually an adjustment screw, and you're going to have 4 in the front and 2 in the back. Okay, and so these, using your 2mm Allen key, and you can use the Bondus rounded side here, as you can see. Let's see, there we go, focus on that. I'm trying to get that in focus for you. See the rounded side? You can use that because these aren't super tight. They do put a little bit of Loctite on there so that they just won't come out. So you want to, if you ever take these screws out, you don't want to put grease on them. You actually want to put a little bit of Loctite. So you can thread those in like normal, or turn them out, and that's your adjustment that you have. So you kind of want to set those for depending on how the tread on your shoe is. If you have a standard mountain bike shoe like this that has a little bit less tread, you can set the grub screws out a little bit more, as you can see here. So these tread, there's a little less they're a little less pronounced tread than what you get with like a downhill shoe or a combo shoe. So this is more of a standard mountain bike shoe, and with this you can set these grub screws up a little bit higher, okay, to get a little bit more traction. One of the other things that we want to be able to change is you have these little plates here, and these plates here you have adjustment, and the adjustment is in the form of these little pads, okay? And so what I'm going to do in this video is we're going to show you how, I'm not going to show you all the pads, and I'm only going to show you one pedal, but you have different pads here, and they actually are numbered on the back here. So Alpha 2, Alpha 2, you have alphas, okay, and then you have B's, okay. So the alpha ones, and by the way, you get the set that comes on it, and you get the secondary set. Okay, so it's kind of confusing because what you have to do is for each pedal you're going to need 2 of the large ones. So this is one side there, this is the other side, so what you're going to do is for each pedal you're going to have 4 of these pads, okay, because you have 2 and 2, okay. So what we're going to do is I'm going to grab 2 of these larger pads and 2 of the smaller pads there, and I'm just going to change out one set for one side here, okay. So for this you're going to need, I believe, it's your 5mm Allen key. Nope, sorry, it's going to be a 4mm Allen key. That's kind of why we do this. It's trial and error. So you're going to want a 4mm Allen key right there. I also have our 4mm preset torque wrench. This is for 5 Newton meters. We're going to use that once we're done. So one of the things you're going to want to do, and here's the nice thing about these new pedals. Shoot, sorry, I was wrong. It is not a 4mm, it is a 5mm. Sorry about that. Well, maybe not. Is it a 5.5mm? Maybe a 6mm? No, it must be a 6mm. Wow, I did not expect that. Shows you how much I read the book on these. Sorry about that. So your 6mm Allen key. You're going to put that in the end cap. The old ones, or all your previous types, use this flathead, and these are plastic. Here's some extra spindles that I have, and they have these end caps here, and they're plastic. They're just a plastic with a flathead. In fact, this is what the spindle looks like. These spindles haven't changed. They're still the same type of spindle with a bearing, sealed cartridge bearing like that. So if you have an extra set of the Crank Brothers pedals and you destroy the pedal body, take the spindles out and keep them. Crank Brothers pedals aren't expensive, but the spindle kits are about the same as it costs for a set of pedals. So I always recommend keeping. I had a set of candies that were pretty junky for a long time. I bought them a long time ago and they kind of fell apart. That's why I kept those spindles. So, like I said, first, by the way, if you want to see that video, I'll have a link in the description for that. So one of the first things you want to do, kind of hold the pedal. This end cap shouldn't be super torqued down. Doesn't need to be. You're just going to want to take and remove the end cap here, like so. It should be greased. These new end caps, they're aluminum. So you're going to want to pull that end cap like so. And then the next thing we want to do is we want to come in and we want to have our proper socket, and we're going to remove the nut that's in there. So as you can see here, we've kind of started this. I grab a tire lever, especially one that's kind of plastic, and then you just kind of can take, you can push like so, get a little bit of leverage right in there, and push on a plastic piece like that until it starts and pops over the edge like that. As you can see, there's these tiny little divots in there, and they catch in there to prevent these from just sliding off. So take that one, and what I want to show you is the difference, because as you can see, you see how flat this one is. This other one, I'm going to put one of these on to show you the big. You can see here, this is where it kind of catches underneath. They do have these, like I said, they have these little levers. Kind of pushes them on, and you can just take your tire lever like so you're not banging on this, or you can kind of get maybe a soft tip hammer and just tap them in there. Okay, so once that's on, if you can see the difference here, see the difference between how this is sticking up a little bit more than the other side right there. So the pad, there's a big difference there. You get a little bit extra pad where your foot will hit on here, giving you a little bit more grip. Okay, so I'm gonna get the rest of these off. I'm gonna new ones on, and we're gonna put the pedal back together. Okay, so we have our 8mm long socket, and I would either recommend getting, you can get a short socket or you can just get an extension, but it's going to be one of your smaller ones. Okay, so you're going to be using your small wrench and an 8mm. Okay, and then you're going to put that in the end, and then of course you're going to be loosening in the same direction that we loosen the end cap. Okay, remember, righty tighty, lefty loosey. That's always a trick that I remember. Or if you're going clockwise, you are tightening. Counterclockwise, you're not tightening. If you're going backwards and you're a little confused, one thing that I always remembered is, and this is an engineering trick here, is you point in the direction that you want to turn, that you want the screw to go or the nut to go. So if I'm pointing this direction, whichever way my fingers, the rest of my fingers on my hand are pointing, so I know I gotta, actually I do it with this other hand. So I got my hand here like this, and whichever way I want the nut to go or the screw to go, I turn whichever direction my fingers are pointing. These other fingers are pointing. So if I want a screw to go that way, which is to go in, and I'm looking at the screw this way, I want to turn this way. So I'll turn this direction. Okay. So that's a little engineering trick I learned years and years ago. Always works. So first thing you want to do is you want to get yourself a rag too, and take that nut out. As you can see, there's the nut inside there. Okay. One thing you can do is you can kind of give your smaller Allen to pull the nut out like that. That's your little 8mm nut. Once you've done that, you can pull this body off the spindle. Now leave the spindle the way it is. We're not going to re-grease anything, because the only thing we want to change is we want to change these pads. So the reason you have to take it off the spindle is because you need to slide these guys out here. Now there actually is a little tool that allows you to pop these, kind of pop these plastic pieces off, but I just slide the spindle body off, and then you can remove these as such. Okay. One of the big things here, yep, so you can kind of see how they have these little ledges in here. You don't want to pop them out. You don't want to just pry them out, because you actually break this rounded edge piece there. So you kind of want to push them out. And there is a little tool that they make, that Crank Brothers makes, that allows you to push these guys out. But one thing I do is I take a small Allen key like so, and I spin the spring body until I can get push like so, and I just get I get started like that. And then you can either use a tire lever or something like that, and you can kind of push on this. I wouldn't use metal or a screwdriver because you might mess up the plastic pieces. So if you give me a second, I'll get these off and I'll show you how to install the new ones. Okay, so once you got them all changed out, now I didn't change them all out, folks, just because I like these flatter pads for the riding that I do. I clip in 90% of the time. The one thing you want to make sure you do, because technically you could probably get these swapped around, you really don't want to do that. So you want to make sure that, as you can see there, in that end there's a bearing. In this end there's just oh gosh, sorry, I'm forgetting names and stuff. And there's a Teflon. This is a sealing ring inside there. You also have your seal right here. So you want this Teflon bushing ring that's right there. If you can see inside of there, see, it's just a bushing. There's only a single bearing, okay, which makes these very serviceable. So you want the bushing side to go on the spindle first. And the other thing is too, this slanted edge, you want the slanted edge to go forward. So we're going to take this pedal, push it all the way on. You want to push it as far up against the seal ring. So this has two rings. It actually has, pull this off, you have a rubber ring here that prevents fluid and water from getting in. It also prevents the grease from coming out and going everywhere. Unlike your old ones that only had this little rubber insert there, this has both a rubber insert and then it has a reverse boot that kind of seals inside against that bushing. So you want to push this in all the way, not putting too much pressure, just kind of seating it there just a little bit. Then you're going to want to take your nut, and you can do one of two ways. You want to make sure the flat end of the nut and not the rounded end goes in first, because this is a lock nut, okay? It does have a locking, kind of a low locking device at the end, so it doesn't come out easily. And you can kind of put it in the end of your, you can put it in the end of your socket there, and you can start it on like so. Okay, as you can see, it started. Once it gets started, that's the big important thing, making sure the nut gets started, and then you want to kind of just tighten it down like so. Once it gets tightened all the way, you can make sure that the pedals spin smoothly. You don't want them to spin. The tightness here, you don't want to over tighten this because you actually strip out the threads, but you want it tight enough that the spindles aren't going to spin too much, okay? And then you want to take your end cap, and the end cap, a lot of people don't realize the purpose of the end cap is the end cap is also, it also sets the bearings in here, so it puts a little bit of pressure on the bearing and allows the pedal not to spin. As you can see right now, the pedal spins pretty freely, and you want to make sure your end cap, if it's not tightened down all the way, you can actually have too much play in your pedal as well. So even though, yes, you're just, so right there, the end cap, you don't want to over torque it, just tighten it down just a little bit and you should be fine. So our other pedal is a little bit loose on the other side, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to loosen the end cap off and check the nut tightness on that one. That's pretty much it. So Crank Brother Mallet E's, remember your adjustments. 2mm Allen key for your grub screws. You got a 6mm Allen key for the end cap, and then of course you have an 8mm socket that you're going to use for the nut that's inside of there, the pedal body, to take the pedal off. Okay, so pretty simple, not really that complicated, pretty easy design, very easy to set up and adjust your pedals and change out these pads. Okay, and remember, for the numbering system, or the lettering system, these, as you can see, you have a B and an A. Okay, so you need two B's, two A's for each one, but you have BA, B2, and then these, or A2, as you see there, and then these are numbered 1. So 1 is the smallest, 2 being the slightly larger one, and that will help you adjust your pedals and set up your pedals kind of for your riding style. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, folks. Give us a thumbs up if you liked it. Like always, I like doing these videos for you guys that get you to kind of do some of this stuff yourself. I find a lot of people out there, they get their bikes, they don't really know how to do this stuff themselves. They take it to the bike shop. The local bike shop is going to do all this stuff for you, and I like supporting my local bike shop, folks. Whenever I can take my stuff into my bike shop on stuff I don't know how to do, I will. But even bike shops will do tutorials, and they'll do little schools on how to do basic bike maintenance yourself. Most stuff, I don't want to say pain in the butt repairs, but some of the biggest problematic repairs for people that cause, I don't want to say they're kind of useless repairs for bike shops, are things that most people can do themselves. It's kind of like an oil change, right? Oil change used to be really cheap, and it was getting to the place where, I mean, most people can do an oil change themselves with an oil pan and a few little things, right? Some people can do some basic maintenance with their car. I'm not saying everything you should do with your car, yourself with your car. I do everything on my bike myself, but that's why we do these tutorials, so you can kind of learn how to do some of this stuff yourself with some basic tools that you have at home. So hopefully you guys liked the video. Make sure you give us a thumbs up if you liked it. Like always, make sure right up there you hit that subscribe button. And if you want to see another video, I should have one for these pedals, click over here. You can see that video over there. And like always, keep riding.